Nathan Judah. I'm here with Wolves reporter. It is Mr. Joe Edwards. Joe, it is Thursday. We're talking about the midfielders.
Yes.
And I can't believe we've this. Just what a coincidence!
Well, I know. Hey, look at you.
Incredible coincidence. The man of the moment, Mr. Ruben Neves, is in the background. Look, big news is that obviously Arsenal are interested. And look, you're always going to get, for your big names, you're always going to get interested party. That comes with the territory. However, there seems to be a lot of substance behind this. Arsenal are interested. Of course, linked with Buendia. He's gone to Aston Villa. Ruben Neves could be the next one. Could you see Ruben Neves leaving this club? And if so, that's a big void to fill, isn't it? And probably one of the first things that Bruno's going to have to sort out and get someone on board. Because midfield, as it's looking, is very thin before.
Yeah.
If there is a potential departure, look, it's a big decision that the club are going to have to make.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, as you say, even if Neves is staying, they need a midfielder to, I think, get the best out of this guy, to be honest. But, yeah, it's Arsenal interested. They are interested. We'd have to see what kind of fee that Wolves would part ways with him for, but he has been at the club now for 4 years, which is quite a long time in this day and age. Of course, has been very settled here, and he's vice captain, and has been a brilliant player. I guess we'll just have to see, but you know, the interest is there. It isn't just, you know, speculation. So yeah, there is the event. There's the possibility, but he's obviously currently away with the Euros. I mean, in terms of the season that he had last season,
yeah.
Ended it as joint top scorer, 5 goals, a few from the penalty spot, a few from inside the box. I don't think he actually scored one from outside the box. Which
not with a free kick.
He didn't have an amazing season, to be honest. I don't think that was helped by the people he had around him. I think we'll come on to it in a bit, but you know, Dendoncker didn't have a great season. Moutinho didn't have the best of seasons either. But he still scored 5 goals, and he still showed, you know, moments of brilliance and games of real quality. Just wasn't quite at the level we've experienced with him previously. But that being said, you can still see why a Ruben Neves attracts a team like Arsenal.
I feel like when Wolves play well and Wolves have had a really good win, other players might become, you know, to the forefront of people's, you know, the goal scorers or whatever. But when you look back at the game and you see someone like Ruben Neves dictate play,
yes,
which is how good he is. Sometimes he isn't the first person that comes to mind as a man of the match performance, but really he is integral to the way that Wolves play. And look, Bruno's going to want to play a different way, and maybe he's got different philosophies, and maybe Ruben Neves, you know, influence may not be as big as it was for Nuno. You just don't know, but at the same time you don't want to lose your best players, and if you do, the most important thing is you've got to replace them with quality.
Well, and that's it. Wolves lost 2 key players last summer and didn't really do a good enough, well, they didn't do a good enough job of replacing them at all. So yeah, we Neves, I mean, last season I think he was almost, because he didn't quite have the right support around him, almost kind of went away from what he did so well a little bit, you know, trying to be a bit more combative and a bit better off the ball. He did improve off the ball. I think he has become more combative, but he's not the quickest across the ground. He's not the, you know, that real athlete. You want somebody else doing that and then allowing him to pull the strings and make the passes and score goals and provide assists. And I think he was almost kind of having to do a little bit too much at times last season. And yeah, but he still had a pretty respectable season. I think if you're looking at Wolves' best players last season, I think he would be about 3rd or 4th in the running, maybe. You know, probably in that top 3. So while it wasn't his best, it was still pretty good. And as I say, you can see why, you know, he'd have suitors.
So, look, João Moutinho has been the best £5 million signing, I think, that Wolves will ever spend. He's been incredible.
Yeah.
A pleasure and an honour to watch him at times, and I'm delighted that I've got to see him live in the flesh.
Yeah,
I'm sure most of the fans think the same thing. But look, I've said it in the podcast, Father Time is undefeated. Which basically means that, you know, he's getting older. Everyone gets older, and everyone, you know, the amount of games he played last year with his age was incredible, by the way. The amount of game after game after game, Saturday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Tuesday, Friday, didn't matter. he carried on playing, but the levels weren't quite there with him, I don't think. And sometimes I feel, as you would expect, especially against some of the better sides, he was a bit of a passenger. Can you see João Moutinho playing as much next season if he is still here? Or do you feel like he will be someone who can play, but only in certain games, maybe one in every 2 or 3 in more of a squad rotational basis?
I think he needs to be used more efficiently, I do.
Is there a place for him in the Wolves,
yes.
in a successful Wolves side?
Yeah, there is. But, I don't think he should be a first name on the team sheet every week. Not because he's not good enough, but as you say, age is catching up with him. He's not getting any younger. He's one of the fittest 34-year-olds you will find. I mean, he still gets about the pitch fantastically well. He makes tackles, he breaks up play. The thing is with Moutinho, he had a very busy 18-19 with Wolves being in the Europa League, still playing pretty much every game for Portugal. Then you had no break from that season going into last season, and then he still pretty much was playing every game for Wolves and going away with Portugal. This summer, he's away with Portugal in the Euros, so that's probably, that's 2 years there. Going into 3 years where he's not had really a break at all. Yeah. And, so I think the problems that you found with him last season, where he looked a bit jaded in games and looked a bit, not quite his sprightly self and not quite having that influence on games that he had done previously, I think that would be a problem that would carry on into next season, because that break isn't coming. So I think there is an onus on supporting him as long as he as he stays at the club. I think he's still a very talented player. Very he's a genius. With the ball at his feet and some of the passes he can make. Others won't even see. But he needs a bit of help, and central midfield is an area Wolves certainly need to reinforce.
Yeah, Neves obviously there with Portugal with the Euros, Moutinho there with the Euros, Leander Dendoncker was at the Euros with Belgium. One of the first names on the team sheet for Belgium, but where was Leander Dendoncker that we know and love this season? Because he was non-existent. He's got a very important role to play next season, I feel, but he's got to be better. He's got it in him, but for some reason, he just did not perform for me last season.
Victim of not knowing quite what he is, I think. I think that's the problem with Dendoncker. That he's played at the back so much, and then he's gone back into midfield, then gone back to the defence, back in midfield. I think he's lost his way in terms of what he is, and even with Belgium, he's not always playing in midfield. Sometimes he plays in the defensive three. I think he needs to just play in midfield and stick to midfield.
Like a Soucek kind of, because that's the ability that he's got. He's been unbelievable for West Ham, but that's kind of what you want from Leander Dendoncker. You want someone who's going to be a brute at set pieces at both ends of the pitch, really, who's going to be claiming balls, who's going to be heading, who's going to be defensive, who's going to let the creative players play. But when the ball is in that box, the other end of the pitch, he's the one who's getting on the end of things, and he's going to be a menace in the box. And I feel he was almost too nice. Yeah. He wants to have that, that I was going to swear there, but you want to have that little bit of aggression in there, going in and scoring goals, and scoring 5, 6. I'm not talking about 8, 9 plus, but scoring 4, 5 goals a season and really being a threat.
Yeah, he can do that, and we've seen it previously that he can be a threat from those situations. I just think, as I say, I think his versatility has cost him. It's a brilliant thing for a manager to have, and I'm sure Nuno would have loved it. And I think Bruno could be quite enticed by it as well. That I've got a player here that can play at the back. He can play midfield. He can almost play as an advanced midfielder at times. He's very versatile. But I think it's almost become at a bit of a cost to the player, and I think he needs to be a central midfielder, have a real run there. I think he's worth persevering with. I'll say that much. I know there is going to be change this summer. There always is at this time of year. But I think he's one that Wolves should persevere with. But I think he needs to play in midfield, be a midfielder, trusting him as a midfielder, and then if he doesn't produce the goods over the course of the season, then it's the time to look at it. But I do like him. I do think he's a midfielder as well. I think he does a decent job at the back, but for me, he's a midfielder, and I think he needs to play in that position because I think he's almost lost himself a little bit along the way.
But look, obviously important part as well, because when you're playing Leander Dendoncker in midfield and he's playing well, and you've got that versatility at the back, if there is an emergency centre back that needs to be used,
if it's emergency,
very important. But you don't want him to be your number one at the back. You've got to give him his best position to play in and say, right, that's you. Don't worry about behind you. That's you. Go and play. I think.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was going to say the periphery definitely probably be doing them an injustice, but Morgan Gibbs White.
Yes.
So we saw obviously do really well at Swansea, got injured, rehabbed, and then found himself in the Wolves team towards the end of the season. Actually did pretty well, I think. Showed a maturity. Obviously, there's been certain things and issues in the past, but I feel like he's obviously got over that and looked like he got his head down and really was thankful to Nuno to sorting it out. And it'd be interesting now because obviously Nuno gone, who's kind of been a father figure and been quite hard on him, to see a new manager, to see how Morgan Gibbs White fits into those plans. I'm going to lump in Vitina with that. I know it's a different situation with him, waiting to see whether he's going to get signed or not for that kind of price tag. Obviously, one of the three who was on loan. Again, I'm sure that future will be resolved pretty quickly. Can both of these players play in the first team? Can they be in and around the first team squad, or is it one or the other, do you feel?
Good question.
That's what I'm here for, baby.
Good question. Vitina, larger will come in and make that decision. I think there's some suggestions in Portugal that the deal is done. I'm told that's not the case. It's an option. It's not an obligation. Same applies to Reynate Nuri at the back, and obviously William Jose, who we don't expect to be signed. But so that's a decision for the new manager to make. Gibbs White, do you think he's come on in terms of character? It seemed like we got the chance to speak to him towards the end of the season. Seemed like he really benefited from that time away. Realises that he's got to kind of grasp the opportunity, and I think he had some all right games towards the end of the season. So I fully expect him to still be part of things going into next season. I don't think they'll look to loan him out again. I'd imagine he'll still be part of the squad. And then Vitina, it's a lot of money, isn't it? I mean, there's obviously a lot of excitement around his performances for the Portugal under 21s. He just got to the final with them recently. They fell short in the final against Germany, but he was very much at the forefront of their run to that tournament final. He's a very talented player. He carries the ball well. There's clearly a player there. It's just whether he's quite right for Wolves. It depends, I guess, on what system that Larger wants to play. Obviously, he played a 4-4-2 at Benfica. Does he quite fit into that? Not so sure. But if Bruno wants to change his style and go with a different formation, as Nuno did when he came into this club, then there is every potential for that deal to be done. But I do like Vitinha. I like what he's about. I like how he carries the ball. And I guess with any of these young players, there is a potential of it becoming a Gonçalves situation where you kind of miss the boat and he goes somewhere else and he's fantastic. But ultimately, that is the decision for the new manager to make. He'll know him. He'll be aware of Vitinha. Obviously, having worked in Portugal youth section for decades, really. Vitinha is a name that he'll know from a very early age, so he'll be familiar of him and what he can do. And if he wants to bring him in, I'd imagine he wants him to be a pretty prominent role as well.
Owen Otasawi is one of the youngers, then maybe the next up and coming. I thought he did really well when he came in. Of course, had a few lows as you'd expect with a young kid coming through, but obviously has got the talent to potentially. I know it caught a lot of people by surprise when he came in from nowhere, but I thought he had a good progressive season under Nuno. We're not going to see him starting in a Wolves side anytime soon, but we might see a bit more of him. Is he probably the next one up, would you say, or the one to be in and around that first team squad and maybe pushing for a bench role on a consistent basis? Yeah,
maybe. I think Bruno will have a good look at him in pre-season. He's one that maybe could be loaned out. Maybe. We spoke about it with a few of these players. Obviously too good for the 23s. I don't think you can stay in that academy set up for too long. So I think he needs some sort of senior football, but whether it's being in and around the first team squad or going elsewhere for a season. But obviously a very good prospect. He had that game against Chelsea, which was brilliant. In the middle of the park, and he came in from out of nowhere and was fantastic. And then obviously a bit more of a bit part player towards the season's end and played on the right wing against Albion and did all right. I think did as good as anybody could have asked. Bright prospect. I don't think he's going to be starting games anytime soon. He may be one that they look to loan out.
So signings finally, Joe. I mean, look, how long's a piece of string? Like you say, before the Neves rumours, you knew that they need to score. They need to score. They need to score.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, to be fair, that's a good point. Is the Wolves midfielder, central midfielders need to score more.
Yeah.
But they need to get one. if Neves does go, then they probably need to get two, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. If Neves stays, then you want a more combative midfielder alongside him. Do that dirty work. Go and make the tackles. Get the blocks in.
Then Duncan can't do that. Then you don't think?
I don't think he's quite that player.
Does Duncan need to play in a 3?
Maybe, yeah, as he did at the start. And that's when I think we've seen the best of Dendoncker, when he was in a midfield 3. I think they need somebody who is a bit more quick across the ground. If you're going to play somebody with Neves, I mean, don't think they'd get him, but for an example, a Bissouma type at Brighton, somebody of that ilk. I don't think he's obviously linked to
Bissouma
the
more price
to the big 6 clubs. So. But yeah, somebody of that ilk, and then if Neves goes, then you need another creator. I mean, interesting to see if Larger would like to bring in anybody that he had at Benfica. I think one of the big guys that he had in midfield there was a player called Gabriel, who was a holder, a bit of a creator, sat in there, kind of did the nice passes while the others kind of bombed forward.
What dreams are made of?
So
see that link now, Gabriel? Dreams? No.
Oh, dreams can come true.
There you go.
Well, it's not what dreams are made of. Come on.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, so if Neves stays, they still need a midfielder. I mean, if Neves goes, then they need to seriously overhaul the midfield. It's been a problem area, I'd say, for a couple of years. There needs to be more goals from there. And I think Wolves, at times last season, they lost the midfield battle too often. So, again, it's an area to reinforce. We keep saying it, but it's an area to reinforce.
Lots of questions. Hopefully, we'll find the answers pretty soon. Tomorrow's the last day. Last day. We've got the thoughts for you tomorrow on Friday. Hope you've enjoyed this. Make sure you log on to expressandstyle.com for all the latest Wolves news.